Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Bionica McKill. I'm here with Shelton Johnson Sr., dynamic speaker, author, life coach, and trainer. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
I'm doing excellent. I'm glad to have you here. It's nice to meet you in person.
Yes, and I'm glad to be here, and thanks for your time.
It's my pleasure. And also, thank you for my book. You guys, I got a copy of the book. Like I said, he is an author. I have a copy of his book, How to Think. The language of the brain is thinking. So we'll probably talk about this a little bit as well because I plan on reading this book. I don't read much, like I mentioned before, but I'm going to get this book done. I'm going to get it done, I promise.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your book, How to Think. And also, we're going to talk about some of the things that you do. I know that you talk about dream, and dream is you accomplishing your goals. You push people to accomplish their goals and to never give up. So I always try to push that message myself also. So there's a couple things I want to talk about because we kind of tie there.
Right. So my book, How to Think, is basically a composite of ideas, processes, and systems, tools that gives someone the ability to think and think correctly. When I say that thinking is a language of the brain, it's the process whereby someone communicates with themselves, right? Because whenever you're thinking, all you're doing is asking and answering your own questions, right? And so if you find yourself thinking and you don't have an answer to your question, then that puts you in a position to where now you have to start searching for the answer to your question. And if you never give up, if you always search, one historical book says, if you seek, you will find, right? So as long as you're continuing to seek for the answer, you'll find it. So thinking takes us to a place where we start searching for answers. And I believe that the answers are out there, and as long as we're asking ourselves the right questions, then we'll find ourselves finding the right answer.
Definitely. And I guess I'm on, like I was telling you earlier, I'm kind of on a journey of that, and I never even thought about that. So you did open my mind there and let me know. I didn't realize or even think, I guess, how much knowledge you can gain from a book. Like my sister tells me all the time, she's like, reading can help you out, because she reads a lot, but it's just not something I ever really thought about bettering myself in that area,
Right.
Because like you were saying, you can learn so much. So it is a good thing that I guess you mentioned that to me, because if you didn't, I probably would have never even looked at it that way, to be honest.
So different, and this is why meeting different people at different levels, at different stages of our life, it exposes us to different processes and perspectives, right? And so when you meet people at certain stages, those perspectives gives us a different viewpoint on certain things in life. Because what happens is in life, as long as we're by ourselves, the only perspective we have is our perspective, which ultimately doesn't take us very far, right? That's why we go to school. We need teachers, because teachers expand us, give us a different perspective on life. That's why we watch certain things, we do certain things, we go to different trips, because those things give us a different perspectives, and we take those perspectives and we use them to shape our life, right? So it's vitally important that as we meet people, we look at the different perspectives that they bring into our lives and take those perspectives and see where we can place them in our life in order to advance us and to push us closer to our goals.
Amen. That's true.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of different things that I need to work on to get myself focused to even, begin to do that. Because, I guess in my head, I have it there, but getting those thoughts out sometimes can be a little hard, especially whenever, like you said, I'm the only one thinking about it.
Right.
So it is always good to have a support system around you and people around you that can help you and alter your way of looking at things so that you can try them in different ways.
Right. So the worst place to store information is in your brain. It's the worst place, right? The best place to store information is a place where you know it will be, right? because you can always go back and easily retrieve it. You know how sometimes you're talking to somebody and you had a thought, you lose the thought, and sometimes you're not able to go back and get it, right? But just think about if you had taken the time and wrote that thought down, right? Then you can easily go back and retrieve that thought and glean the information from that person that you needed, or give that person the information that they need, right?
Sure.
So and this is something I do when I'm speaking and when I'm training. So if I had this piece of paper, right? And I had numbers all over this piece of paper, like numbers 1 through 100. And I gave it to you and I said, you got 30 seconds to find as many numbers as you can, starting counting with 1. Chances are you probably will find in 30 seconds, you may find 8 to 10 numbers, right? Like 1, 2, 3. But once I show you the system, which is if I took this paper and I folded it in half and then folded it in half, and I showed you that the system is in this square is 1, and this square is 2, and this square is 3, and this square is 4, right? And I gave you 30 seconds, you're gonna find much more than just 10 numbers. The difference is because now I've given you the system of how to accomplish it. So a lot of the bottleneck in our lives is because we lack systems, we lack tools, we lack the right mindset, we don't have the right framework, right? When you start gathering those things, even in the midst of having challenges, it just puts us so much farther ahead when you got a system in place.
Right.
So, writing things down, getting a certain system in place, working the system, right? It puts us in a different place. And I always say this, when people buy McDonald's, when they go to McDonald's and they start a franchise, they're not buying the Big Mac, they're not buying nuggets, they're not buying Happy Meals and Sundays, they're buying a proven system, right? And once you take that system and you put it in place, McDonald's work, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Dallas, Texas, Paris, Ireland, Switzerland, doesn't matter. It works. Well, why does it work? It's a system. It's a system.
Okay. And what kind of system? Is there a system that you have?
Yes.
Or you would suggest for us to, benefit off of?
Well, I'll give you, there's.
I guess for thinking or something like that.
Well, I'll give you so one of the things that most people want to do, right? People want to move their life forward, right? They want to move their life forward. The problem is they don't know how.
Right.
Right? They have a desire, they have the skill set, they have the ability, but they don't know how. And so the first thing I ask people is, where do you want to go? Right? Where do you want to go? So one of the things I look at, like in today's, in the church world, right? All of us want more out of life. The Bible tells us we should have more. The question is, why don't we?
Right.
Right? So then you have to understand, we don't because we don't know how. And that's very challenging, because you would think going to church almost every Sunday, we would get the information necessary to change our life. And it doesn't necessarily happen like that, because we don't understand that the paradigm is at play, right? So if I'm going to give you a system, I first got to help you understand the system itself, which is the paradigm. So for example, right? Like right now we have a major challenge as it relates to relationships, right? Especially in the African American community. So we have many more available quality sisters than we do available quality men. So what happens is, with the paradigm is, you take a isolated couple, right? And so then she's asking him to do, to be, to lead, right? But his paradigm, right? What he know, how he grew up, what he was exposed to, right? That does not give him the capacity to do what she wants, even though he wants to do it. because he don't have it. It's not in his paradigm, right? And so the paradigm in us, in our mindset, is based on information. It's based on atmosphere, right? Because once you get into atmospheres predicts behaviors. And if you continue to do a behavior, it becomes a habit, right? So before I can get you to the system, I got to help you understand the paradigm, right? So the paradigm can only be changed by giving it new information, repeat it over and over, and then practice that information. If that's not done, then the paradigm will never change. And then it doesn't matter what system someone give you, it'll never work. That's why in most books, there's some type of system in most books, in most programs, in messages that pastors preach. There's a system, there's points, there's a way, the framework of the message, right? So why is it then that most people don't take it and use it? It's because the paradigm is still the same. So I can give you the system, but if I don't help you understand the paradigm, if I don't help you to increase and shift your paradigm so that now you can take the system and apply it to your life, then nothing will change. So you got to give yourself new information. You got to say that information over and over again, as in a confession, and then you got to practice what you've been saying. Sooner or later, that shifts your paradigm. It opens you up to be able to take a system and then apply it. So the system that I tell everybody to start off with is simply just a morning daily routine, whatever that is, whether that's wake up in the morning and do prayer, meditation, exercise, reading. Start there. Start with that system, perfect that system, grow that system. And once you do that, then it'll lead to other areas of your life and it'll start to branch off.
Okay, well that's excellent advice. I don't have, well I guess I kind of do have a morning routine. I don't really do too much in the morning. I wake up super early and stuff like that, but I guess those hours that I'm relaxing in the morning, that's when I'm going to replace with reading.
Right.
So that's what I would do. That's one step. Because I'm really sitting here trying to do it. I'm going to really try. I'm telling you I'm trying. So whenever I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't know what to do. I could read for like an hour or two at least.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to take baby steps because, you know.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a start. And then who knows, like you said, after you keep repeating those things, it'll just become a habit, and then it'll just be nothing. I don't want to say nothing to me, but it'll just be something that's just like, oh, like I'm gonna just read because that's something I've been used to doing.
Right.
And then it'll also benefit me and better my life. So I'm gonna go ahead and take your advice on that one. I'm gonna try.
It works. Trust me, it works. And that's not just me saying it, right? That's the shoulders of many giants that came before us, right? Even the book that you read on Sunday, it says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God." Study, right? So it's just a building block of life. It really is. And you've heard, I'm quite certain you've heard this. If you ever want to hide something from an African American, put it in a book. So that's not by accident that we hear those type of cliches, but it just makes us think, you know, some of the things that we need to prioritize. So like in my house for my kids, they can have anything they want as long as they read for 20 minutes a day.
That's not a bad trade.
No.
At all.
It's not.
It's not a bad trade. So, I guess for the people who would be listening, what books would you recommend to start off with for people who are more like me, just so we can have a reference on something to read to begin with?
2 books. One is a small book. I always suggest is How Successful People Think by John Maxwell, and then the next one will be No More Excuses by Brian Tracy.
Okay.
And then there's one called The Voice, written by yours truly.
By you.
Yes.
Awesome. So y'all make sure y'all go press the link in his bio. I know you have access all of your stuff on your website.
Right.
Because I went on there and I checked it out. So
Yes.
if you guys want to go ahead and go check that book out, make sure y'all press the link in his bio so y'all can go read it.
Yes. So those will be the 3 books. How Successful People Think by John Maxwell, which is a foremost world's leader and expert on leadership. It takes a deep dive into how to actually start to shift that paradigm to start thinking like successful people think.
Okay.
Right? And then one of the things that people do they have the propensity to make excuses, right? If I give you an excuse, most people are going to make an excuse, right? So in Brian Tracy's book, No More Excuses, it takes the excuse factor completely out of your life.
That's like, what I need to read.
No excuses. So because what you're going to realize that on the path to success, there lies no excuses, all responsibility, right? And so early on in my life, I was young and maybe like 13, and God told me to look at the word responsibility, right? And then the word is, responsibility, and He said now reverse it, right? Because it's a compound word, right? He says reverse it, so I reversed it. So He says, look at the word. I look at the word. What does it say now? Ability to respond, right? So He says, never put yourself in a situation where you don't have the ability to respond, right? But responsibility takes out the excuse factor. And so Brian Tracy, he writes and gives you a great system and a great position and perspective on excuses.
Okay. I'm going to have to definitely check that out because I'm guilty of that. People always tell me, why are you making excuses? And I'm like, I'm not making excuses, but I really am making excuses when I realize I'm like, okay, I am making excuses.
There's no...
So I feel... Go ahead.
And then, of course, yours truly in The Voice is basically a book that gives you a system on how to follow and take, I'm not going to say orders, but take direction and guidance from the unseen world based on simply hearing the voice.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to have to check him out, though. I'm going to have to get my library up because you keep giving us all these free game books so we can learn. So I'm going to have to stop them up, go to the library.
So think about this, right? So at some point, none of us live forever, right? So as your quest go on reading, you're going to realize that there's some things that you want to leave to your daughter.
Correct.
Right? So, for example, number one, you want to leave her some money.
Definitely.
Right? You definitely want to leave her some money. Number two, you want to leave her your library. Right? Because your library tells her how you think.
Correct.
Right? If she look in your library and she see a whole bunch of novels, love novels, fairy tales, right? She like, well, my mom was all into entertainment, right? She just loved entertainment. She loved the thought of love and all of that, right?
Right.
And she may see a little bit of that, but then she's seen books by Brian Tracy, books by Patrick Bet-David. She's seen books by Les Miles, Tony Robbins, Ray Dalio. Then she's like, well, this guy here, I looked him up. He's a hedge fund manager. This guy here is an NLP guy, neuro-linguistic programming. This guy here is a real estate guy. This guy here is a leadership expert. She gets a chance to see in your mind that you had a well-rounded perspective based on your library. Mm-hmm. So which in turn will help her and shape her based on how she thinks. Because if you acquire any level of success and you thought that way, then what she's going to think? Chances are it works, right?
Right.
So then it helps. So reading and writing books, it leaves an imprint on our legacy.
And I never really thought about writing a book or anything like that. Maybe when a couple years when I get big like you know.
I actually it's crazy because I got a seminar coming up, a webinar I'm going to be doing to show people like you to actually how to write a book. So because it's like anything in life, right? So you have Macy's, you have Saks Fifth Avenue, you have Neiman Marcus, but you also have Dillard's, you also have JCPenney's, you even have Walmart, right? So there's people who have value in their system, but they charge $35,000 to help you write a book. Then there's some that charge $15,000 and $20,000. So my perspective is when I got ready to write my first book, I was clueless, right? And everybody don't have $25,000 and $35,000 or $15,000 or $10,000 to drop into a book. I don't care how much you say I'm going to make. If I don't have it, I don't have it. And so my life has been characterized based on helping the people who didn't have the opportunities that everybody else have or a small group of people have. So I'm putting together a webinar right now to be able to take people from where they are, take their story, show them how to put their story in a system, and to be able to write a book and not spend $10, $12, $15,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 doing it.
That's nice for you to be able to do that for people, because I know a lot of people like myself, you know, it's kind of hard to just come up from nothing and just take something that you want and make it yours with, you know, with minimal funds.
Right.
So just having an opportunity to be able to attend something like that that's affordable for somebody, I'm sure a lot of people will be grateful for that and appreciate that for sure.
Right.
Because it'll allow us to help ourselves, and also it helps you as well.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that makes you feel really good being able to help that many people do the same thing that you want to do, that you're doing, you know?
Right. Yeah, so it's my form of giving back. You know, it's because you never know, right? You never know who you can help, and you never know who they can help, right? It's kind of like you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can never count the apples in a seed.
That's funny.
Right? Because you don't know how many it's going to produce. It's just no way numerically to know. Right? So me helping you, I just don't know how far that can go. I have no idea how far that can go. And so a big part of success is being able to help people and give back to people and organizations that are important to you.
Right. And that's something I would like to do, you know, if I'm able to do that. I'm a claimant. Whenever I'm able to be big enough to give back to my community or help people who, you know, want to do the same thing as me, I'm definitely going to do it, because it does feel good to be able to do that. Like, I guess my good deeds I'm doing right now is helping the elderly, my old neighbors and stuff. But that is a blessing to be able to do that. Okay, that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. On part 2, we'll be talking about the process of success. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram at LTAI_podcast_.
And follow me at Shelton Johnson Sr.
Thank you guys so much. Be blessed, and do not forget to smile. Bye.